Okay, it's going live. James.
Good morning. This is James Haft with my partner, Gordon Einstein.
Yes, good job.
I got it right.
Yes.
For you aficionados
Not
of the show.
Epstein. I did not hang myself in a prison cell. I'm the Einstein relativity guy.
You've seen it live here. So today we're going to talk about the democratization of DeFi. And those of you who watch the show know that I'm a big believer in decentralization and in the positive impacts that distributed ledger can have on politics, society, religion, education, and the economy. And today we're going to talk about two people who are friends and compatriots who I've been working with for the last couple of years, who are deeply involved in how we're going to bring these tools to the masses, to people who historically haven't had access to finance, who may or may not have had the same level of education or opportunity, and how we're going to make the world smaller, and through that enable people to communicate directly and improve their lives and take control of their own lives away from centralized government and other authorities. So we have Atif Yaqub here, who is the CEO and founder of Yaqub. And we have Thessy Mehrain, who is my good friend from Liquality and from Consensys. Thessy, why don't you introduce yourself quickly first?
You did already a great job. Yeah, my name is Thessy Mehrain. I am with Liquality. I'm a co-founder there. Liquality is an unintermediated exchange, crypto to crypto, and I'm also the founder of Women in Blockchain. Also an initiative to bring more equality into the tech space initially, but then really to have that impact on the world.
Atif?
You're a golden source for additional female speakers, it sounds like.
Oh, yes.
That is great. Fantastic.
Atif?
Yeah, I'm Atif, founder of Yaqub and board member of Curated Digital Assets here in London. That's me.
All right, so Gordon, you get to do the intro now. I cut you out.
Good morning, everyone. This is Gordon Einstein. I am your favorite cryptocurrency and blockchain attorney, and welcome to the highest energy show in crypto, DLT Fridays. It is 6 a.m. in the morning, and I am awake. I am dressed. I have my tea. I'm excited for this, and I'm thrilled for our guests. And I want to also thank the magical Jane, who's like Oz behind the curtain, for making it all happen. And James, my brother, feel the energy. Yes, feel the energy, and I'm going to pass it back to you, and I'm going to interrupt whenever I feel like it, because I'm that kind of guy. Let's go.
We'll mute Gordon if he bothers you. Don't worry. Okay, so Thessy, you're with Consensys. You have Liquality. How did you get here? What's the story of how you got into decentralized finance and into blockchain?
I came to blockchain via my interest in decentralization, but from a different perspective, really. I had my first Bitcoin actually in 2012, but I didn't realize how amazing that was. So it took me a while, but then I went to I worked with JP Morgan for 6 years, building trading products in the investment bank, and was slightly disappointed about how it all was working and not working during the financial crisis, and then joined Occupy, worked with the alternative banking group for a few years there. And so my interest was really in how can we create better access for everybody? How can we bring those 99% plus into the playing field, right? And so I went to a talk on decentralization and heard about Ethereum, and that was really exciting to me because on Ethereum I could see that we can build circular economies, we can change the structure of how things work, and we can disintermediate, basically taking out the middleman. And via that, I also came back to Bitcoin, of course, the mothership of all. And so that's my interest. And then I joined Consensys in 2016. I also started Women in Blockchain in 2016. And I met amazing people at Consensys, Consensys being the biggest startup in that space, having all these different projects going, building that ecosystem. It's a very young ecosystem still. And but to even bring all these amazing people together with these amazing ideas, I initially worked on identity, self-sovereign identity. And there I met Simon Lapsher and Alex Grissel, and we started a project, a research project, and then eventually Liquality.
Atif, how about you? What's your journey?
My background story. So I've always kind of been in my own businesses, never really been on the corporate side, so more on the entrepreneurial side. And one of my corporate friends from New York happens to be, was buzzing me about Bitcoin for a long time, like 16 all the way through to 17. And I was like, no, I don't really understand it. I don't know what this is. How can the computer generate some coins? And, didn't get my head around it. But then the day it did, for me, it was like just super exciting. And I went from like not understanding it to just being immersed in Bitcoin first. And then I had a little office. I started mining Bitcoin in there because I had electric supply filled up with machines. Then I moved on to Ethereum because the GPU rigs were a lot quieter than the ASIC miners. And then I got into investing. And from there, just built up and start getting involved with projects. And then over the years of just, I'm still as excited, I think, today about Bitcoin as I was the first day I figured it out. And I think for me, it's always still like the original, even in like DeFi, when people ask me, oh, what about, what's your favorite coin? And I still tell them Bitcoin because I think it's still the most democratized, digital currency that's available today. And here I am today, and now I'm involved I founded my own project recently and launched that. And I'm also doing some other things around venture funds within the crypto space. But I really enjoy the community side of crypto. That's kind of like, because the corporate, side of business never really, I never had like excited me. But this, with a mix of business and community, is just brilliant. So yeah, I mean, we have a really big community ourselves now, and engaging with other communities, and like what you're doing here, James, is brilliant. Like I'm engaging different. I guess this is like the mix of touching corporate with crypto communities. So this is something really unique, I think, that you're doing within the crypto space, and I hope it really grows and we get this like mishmash of people, and it's also you bring in like diversity and different individuals. That's been a big thing about when I launched this our current project, Yaqub. I was adamant that the team is like we have a balanced and diverse team because in the crypto space it has been a little bit biased in some of the areas for a while. So but yeah, brilliant to be here, and cool. And look forward to Gordon's interjections.
So I appreciate what you're saying, Atif. It's interesting. First, I just recently got involved with Bitcoin mining, which is the first time in 6 years where I even decided to touch it. And I was convinced by my partner, David Johnston, because we went through like classic investing. I believe everything's fractals, in terms of diversification and the idea of needing decentralization. And David convinced me that going back to Benjamin Graham, that you want to invest in the root of the tree where the industry is going to seek shade. And that we really started thinking about how Bitcoin is that root, that, there isn't going to be success in this market unless Bitcoin goes with it at this point in time. That could change over time, but where we are now, Bitcoin is that root, and Ethereum is there and some others are coming up. But at the end of the day, the root of the oak tree right now is Bitcoin. I thought it's something slightly interesting about diversification, and Thessy, I really want to talk about women in blockchain. So I think that's fantastic that you did that. So congratulations, and I respect that tremendously. But my kids, who are 19 and 24 and incredibly correct and colorblind and fantastically open human beings, when I tell them that I'm so focused on having diversity in my panels and whenever I work at conferences, et cetera, how important it is to me, my younger son, who's 19, will always say to me, Dad, don't you understand? It's just as prejudiced to seek diversity. It should just happen. It shouldn't be something that you need to do. And I really agree with him that the whole thing why we're here and how it works. It's not about taking people and empowering them because of what their background might be. It's about finding fantastic people who come in all shapes, colors, and sizes and flavors, right? And that's really the way I've tried to look at it. So Thessy, talk about women in blockchain. What was the idea? Did you look around the room and just see all white males, or what happened?
Well, anyways, I've been working in technology for a long time, right? So I was quite used to it. I had very positive experiences, and also the same experiences which is shared by a lot of females, pretty much all females, being in meetings and, males addressing each other and kind of leaving out the female in the middle who had the initial idea. I just wanted to say something to what you just brought up. The colorblind, that word is, for example, something that triggers me because I think really
the show is about being triggered.
I just have to jump in. The fact that she lowered her voice and dropped her cadence.
I love it.
That term.
Listen, I just want to have an interjection here. This show is about being triggered and calling people out. I have no problem with that.
No, it's good. I just want to clarify it because I think I can. So colorblind says that we want to negate the differences, but really it's not. We should embrace it, right? So, and that goes to your second point. The second slogan of Women in Blockchain, or the slogan of Women in Blockchain, is all people, one world, right? So it's not about, now we want to get away from like the white guys ruling and we want to go to like the women ruling. It's not about that. It's really about inclusion, and it's about all people coming together, right?
I love
and
that. I felt that right here when you said it. I really liked it. So
tell your son, and it's great that he doesn't think that's necessary. That's really good. And there are a lot of people who, and specifically younger people, and even women too, right? Who don't think that's even necessary to have specific groups for specific minorities. But in order to get to all people, one world, we have to focus on these groups to bring them intentionally in, because any system is perpetuating, right? So me, the female, would probably easier look for other females, guys look more for the same, right? And so ideally we do this intentionally, because we have seen it doesn't really work, right? If we just let it go, tech scene hasn't really changed in terms of its makeup. In Germany, for example, they also tried to, for 25 years, to get females into the C-level. And, Germany is a very equal society in terms of social services and all that. But women just opted out. So that's another way of like not creating inclusion, right? Because why? Because they probably didn't want to, hang out with the guys. So this has to be done with education, with specific measures and a specific focus. So I do believe that we should see color, we should embrace, and we should also be intentional about building diverse builder communities, and because we're also addressing a global audience, right? So we have to build with all these people together, right?
But what's interesting to me about the online business, about the decentralized activities of both you guys and people I talk with, is that, and the beautiful thing about the blockchain is you don't really know the shape, size, color of the person that's on the other end of your activities, and the beauty of truth without trusting, right? That I don't need to know who it is, because I can see your wallet and I can see the algorithm and I can treat everyone the same. So are there parts of your business where you actually are actively trying to be inclusive, or is it just you think that the nature of the activity by itself is inclusive? Atif? Anybody?
All right. I'll take that first. I think definitely by default, like Thessy mentioned, it is a global community, right? So in our experience and in my personal experience from a project or even personally, I think it's always been very, very diverse and very inclusive. And a small thing I'll tell you, like when I launched my current project, when we were just starting out with a group chats and things like that, I found like right early on, I had a couple of guys come from Ghana. I had a couple of guys like from Vietnam. I had a couple of guys like from Europe, and all over the different places, people coming in, right? and it wasn't really necessary for us to go and seek out and say, okay, we need to send messages to here and there. It just kind of happened itself, and it just kind of gels together, and nobody was really questioning anybody or putting up a banner saying that we need to be diverse and inclusive right here. It just kind of organically happens, and that's because I think a lot of this is one community and one industry that I've experienced this in every other sector that I've ever touched. It's always had a closed barrier around it, and it's always functioned within that barrier, within that cage, whether it's the automotive industry or traditional financial markets, other old, technology sectors or food industry, whatever it is that I've personally experienced, it's always had a cage around it, and that cage then by default prevents it opening up and becoming as diverse as possible. Whereas crypto, it doesn't really have those barriers. It's a 24/7 market. It's a global market. There's no really barrier to entry. Somebody can come in with $5, somebody can come in with $5 million, and they can be in the same group. And, you have things about whales and tags, these kind of terminologies, but generally nobody objects to participate on a level playing field. And we're trying to do that same thing. We launched our project from being from seed to launch at the same flat price, because we think even the economics can have the same effect, that giving everybody the same chance and same opportunity is part of that diversity. And if everybody's global in that circle, then you should try to keep the kind of level as flat as possible and not create these these barriers that in the corporate world you have all these kind of ceilings and glass ceilings or different types of ceilings, right? And you just can't progress. And even for people of whether it's men, women, or different races, sometimes it just doesn't work, even if the infrastructure or the corporation is open to that. It just doesn't work, I think, because of the nature of the beast. It's something doesn't fit. Whereas in crypto, I think it's kind of more organic, and I really enjoy the fact that it's not forced upon people, and it's just happening itself.
Well, it's interesting. First of all, I'd say the only people that are objecting or causing friction are the governments and those entities which think they're losing stature or control, which is kind of the story of our decade, I think. There's a question from the crowd, which is asking: is the American experience with systemic sexism and racism different than what is seen in Europe? Thessy, what do you think? Is there a difference? Are we different? Have we made America great here?
I think that's a very personal, I mean, I'm not saying that there isn't somebody who can really talk to that, but I have my personal experience, and so I don't really want to answer that from my personal point of view. I would say there is a difference. I have my theory around it, but I don't know. So what Atif just said, I totally agree with, that the technology provides access, right? Access is one thing though. And we had that with the internet, right? So democracy and equality isn't necessarily an inevitable outcome of access. And access, is also funneled through early access, right? So right now the inequality in crypto is bigger than the inequality across the world, right? Why? Because of course the initial bootstrapping was with the miners, and it was a particular group, and that makes sense, right? And I'm happy the nerds got the money, no doubt. But there wasn't really initially a mechanism of distributing it to people who come later, right? So Vitalik Buterin, the founder of Ethereum, actually talked about this, which I thought was great. To keep some tokens for people who don't even know about this yet. I mean, we are still playing in an area that is not known to 99 99% of the people, right? They have no access in various ways, one being technology-wise, but also in terms of knowledge, in terms of use cases, in terms of many things, right? So I just want to, I mean, when I was in the early internet days, I thought on the other side of cyberspace, like my 14.4 modem is dialing me into some equality place with no borders and no nothing, and that was taken over by corporations, right? And it was monetized. And now, just 2 weeks ago, we see where that can lead. We think this is like democratic distribution of information, and in many ways that's true. It's access to information, but at the same time we have algorithms that exploit everybody's thinking, and so there are other forces at work where I would think, we gotta be very mindful about how we build all the time, and nothing is a given, and democracy is a very fragile construct, and with blockchain, I do think that we have a lot of chances of building new business models. Ethereum is the biggest community right now, building all these different ways of involving people, rewarding people, but all of those decisions have to be made, like what kind of reward system are we having, right? What are we rewarding? If we come from the legacy world, then we're just reproducing the same problems. And so it's a really amazing field. I'm totally into it. I'm also an activist, always have been. And so it covers like everything I care about, because there's so many areas to be involved in. And money is, of course, like an important one, right? The free exchange of money and value in general is basically your freedom of speech.
What's interesting is Hayek, talked about 30, 40 years ago how we had to get away from fiat currencies issued by political governments. And he said, basically, over the last 500 years, love has changed, government has changed, but money hasn't changed. Money is the same tool for the same purpose, used for the same control methodologies now than it was, 300, 400 years ago, and all these other changes have had, because everyone's afraid to let go of that methodology. So do you think that what we're involved with is a political change globally? Is this something which leads to how people change in how we interrelate with each other globally?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it is. Yeah, I think it definitely gives. It can give money a new meaning, right? And an exchange of value, and transfer of value. The way it happens generally is the beginning of how that meaning changes. So, like at the moment, all money is kind of centralized and controlled by government, and therefore the meaning around it, or the spending power around it, is governed by that, right? By that thesis. So yeah, definitely that can happen, and I think it is actually on a small level already happening. The way you see so many micro communities within the crypto space, and these people are transacting on different levels, and also just with fungible tokens and then with non-fungible tokens, there's an overlay there where you can start to create different layers of value and give it a different meaning. And then some of this is governed by code and the community through governance tokens. And then so when you start to create micro communities like that, that's where you can really start to change the meaning of what does it mean to have a single dollar unit of value, and what that means compared to what this token might do and then another token might do. And if the tokens are borderless and they're not really governed by a central entity, then sooner or later you can just have this mishmash of different I don't know what the word would be. It wouldn't really even be currencies. Thessy, what would you call it? I don't know. Do you have a word of what that would be, the new transfer of value or a new type of money?
I'm fine with currencies.
I call it the new digital economy. which doesn't really have a specific meaning yet, but it's about the different ways that things move forward. Relating to what you were just talking about, when we talk about governance, which is so important to the new world that we're coming out with, and concepts of consensus, the way I look at the world is that all code is law, like all code is governance, because it controls how electrons move and how decisions are made along a tree, down to zeros and ones until we get to quantum computing. And so to me, people looking, for rules and for concepts, I kind of like look through what's happening now and say what's happening. These are all little micro economies, little micro political worlds. My first experience with crypto, besides Bitcoin and Neil Stephenson, was Faircoin, and Faircoin was an original. You're laughing. So was one of the original blockchains and totally died on the vine. But it was about creating a unit of exchange for people in the hemp industry globally. So it was like hippies, and other guys who had decided there was this thing that would be non-inflationary, that would be fair for everyone, that you could buy it on the website cheap. And the idea was to use it as a way to move value around hemp. And I got involved, and it was really cool. It was a really cool little economy and political entity. At the end of the day, the founders weren't true to the to the underlying concept. But at the last thing that they tried to do that was interesting was when Catalonia tried to separate from Spain. They needed a currency, and these guys were all Catalonian. So they basically tried to make the Faircoin the currency of the new region. And it was really interesting to be involved in the interaction there with the central bank and with the businessmen to try and create a new economy, in a country. It ended up being the mouse that roared, unfortunately, and didn't happen. So next question we have here is, people right now, are new people coming in to DeFi, or is the DeFi space just the same people cycling and front running, a small community?
No, I definitely think from our experience and from our metrics, there's a huge influx of people, and there's a lot of people coming in. Whether they understand what's going on is another question. It's still a very technical world, and it's developer centric, and the technology is not as easy for newcomers. So a lot of the people that I'm engaging with in the financial markets, even corporates, people who have not engaged with Bitcoin or Ethereum previously, are coming directly into DeFi plays, and they're getting really excited about how you can you can how you can kind of create different value and different financial products through it. So I think definitely there's an influx of people, and I think this will continue. So each kind of cycle within the crypto economy brings a whole new set of individuals, and this comes with a whole new set of ideas, new sets of products, and I think DeFi is one of those which has grown tremendously. It grew really rapidly last summer, and even after the kind of like cool off, we're still seeing like total lock value grow past like $25 billion now. So I don't think so that's going to stop as more and more kind of liquidity comes into the market and it becomes easier. This will almost become its own kind of sector and industry, and a large chunk of it, because finance is the most connected element of crypto from the beginning and to today, right? So it's definitely going to stay there, and I think that's going to grow, because as the traditional financial world struggles with their own kind of structures, the fallout from that is inevitably going to come into DeFi products. So and there's going to be different engineering of products. We're really, really early, I think, generally, in terms of the protocols and in terms of the development, the front end, the applications, the infrastructure for DeFi. We've done very well over the past 2-3 years in the basic crypto infrastructure for the basic cryptos and to come in and out. But products around DeFi are still very early. But as time goes on, and as I think more fallout happens from the traditional markets, that will naturally spill over into DeFi, and we'll get experience from people who are maybe in the banking industry who are really great at financial engineering and products will come into the DeFi space and say, okay, hey, how can we help you guys, boost this and improve it and make it better and and build it up. So
how do we break out of finance, right? How do we get to the other ways that this could matter? I'm focused on right now a lot on DAOs, on the corporation maybe being a dated form. It's from the days of the Hudson Bay Corporation, right? So, are there new forms of collaboration that go in business as well as politics? And how are they going to start to propagate and start to have meaning to us?
I would like to say something to what you discussed before. So number one, everything is political, right? We don't work in a vacuum space. Number two, where we are, I think, is like on the way to the fourth industrial revolution. So we are prepping for that. So it's like super early. We're just getting out of, having built the internet, having built a lot of these machines, and fourth industrial revolution being the fusion of all that, right? The fusion of blockchain, AI, IoT, robotics, all of that coming together, right? So we are somewhere in the middle of that, and it will be easier later to exactly pinpoint where we were today. While you're in it, it's difficult. But so with that, the growing pains with globalization, while we are coming together, we also have to build out the tools. How do we communicate, right? So anything we do, I don't see in the vacuum of like, oh, this is my industry, it's finance. Like I said before, I worked on self-sovereign identity, which is like, it's totally connected. Everything is connected, right? So like, where does your identity go, and how much will you in the future even think about, oh, now I have to show my papers, now I have to interact. A lot of this is just going to, number one, be automated and just happen while you walk in somewhere. You already getting checked in, and while you come out, you pay for what you took. And so, and then also all the interaction with robotics and machines and things that will be taken over. And so now to your question about DAOs, yes, of course, the whole the governance mechanism is going to change, and that's super exciting. So decentralized autonomous organizations as a structure are also very early on. So the question of like, like are new people coming into DeFi is like, well, are people in general coming to DeFi? It's like that early, right? I mean, we haven't even started yet, right? And so this is the time though where the fabric is being laid. And so the infrastructure, we have to build the infrastructure first. We have to make sure that the infrastructure is interoperable, that the infrastructure has those qualities that brought us into the scene, right? You talked about Bitcoin. Bitcoin, is censorship resistant, it's transparent, it's, immutable in this case, and it has all these, it's permissionless, right? And nobody can stop it, nobody can say like, you cannot take part. But how do you bring that into other activities, and where do you want to really bring everything of that into other activities? Maybe you do not have to be completely unintermediated in everything, right? But there are certain things where you want to say, and my opinion is, as long as the user knows where they are on the decentralization spectrum, then they can make a decision. That also takes an educated user, right? Now we're shifting power from institutions and government.
Let me jump in 1 second, and then I'm going to hand it right back to you. I wrestled this myself. I don't know whether it's the technology needs to become more accessible, whether it's the user interface that needs to become more accessible, or the user needs to step up their game, or some combination of these. And I struggle with the proper. I'm sure there's elements of all of them, but I struggle knowing where to prioritize since resources are not infinite. Like, where's the biggest gap, would you say?
Everywhere.
Okay.
It really can't, you can't you can't do one without the other, right? So what we did, for example, with the internet, and where we somewhat failed is we didn't build the civic intelligence, right? So we built the mechanism of distributing knowledge, and that's great. And we can all be proud now. Everybody can, read the New York Times online. But did we build the human that goes along with that? Did we educate? Did we make sure that people actually can make a difference between fact and fiction? And so what mechanisms do we have? It's really interesting. So blockchain is called the scaling of trust, right? So now we have the internet of communication, and we're adding the layer of trust to it. So that allows us right now to exchange intrinsic value across the internet. So that is like the very early start of that kind of exchange. Next comes the verifiable process, right? So right now, let's say supply chain tracking has a first mile, last mile problem, right? Right now, you have still need trust who puts it on there and who takes it off, right? So the reporting in the beginning and the end. But we have to build it in order to solve those problems, right? And so the beauty in intrinsic value is that that's it, right? You can send it, it's native to the chain. And so, so that's pretty much it.
James, let me ask a question to the group. I mean, I guess the title of this is democratization through DeFi, or the essence of it. Does decentralization inherently lead to democratization?
No, that was my point. My point was it doesn't, right? I mean, you have to intentionally do that. Okay. Right? And so we have, in order to get to democratization, you have to bring the people and you have to actually build it in a democratized way so that the output is also informed by the different experiences, right? Otherwise, and that's the phase any technology or anything goes through first, right? Right now we are in a phase where we put whatever the legacy world on the new mechanism, right? A good example is actually where we have gotten past that is, or not past, but I mean a first change is old structure, new structure, and what that means for another generation. Coinbase, remember Coinbase, right? Coinbase in October 2012 started selling Bitcoin, very much like a bank, centralized authority, all that. And in 2018, Hayden Adams, who, after like a year's work, after he lost his job, his first job, launched Uniswap, a decentralized exchange. And in September 2020, actually Uniswap had a higher trading volume, above 1 billion, than Coinbase, right? So this dude is young, right? It's a totally different mindset. He didn't even probably never went to bank, when he started that project. And so it's a completely different, that's where the innovation is, and that's where other people come in, right? And with that, we have to also build the civic intelligence in terms of what are we doing with this, how the ethics, right?
I love that expression, civic intelligence. Let me throw this at you. I mean, democracy does have a sort of decentralized theme to it, but it does also imply people act as a group and maybe agreeing to be bound by group rules that are mediated by their kind of terms of engagement. Is there any kind of contradiction between this sort of group effort and decentralization?
Yeah, but I think it can be used in, this is what I guess Thessy maybe is touching on a little bit, is that technology, like the internet, right? In its nature, it might be democratic and democratized and open and available for everybody, but then it can always be used in a different way, right? And we already see this in the crypto space with decentralized technology, right? Some people can use it for a more open, inclusive, cooperative community, and some people can use it for whichever other ulterior motive, they have to
And sorry, and just to be clear, I wasn't implying a negative ulterior motive. I'm just saying that, like, let me throw this at you.
But it's not a negative. It can turn into a negative, even if they might not necessarily imply that it is negative, right? Because they can build it out like that. And I think this happens generally. This happened with social media, right? Was it intended to have like the kind of impacts that it has today? With fact checking and fake news and manipulation of elections. So many things can happen, right? Was the intention of the technology that? No. Was it even intended to be used like that when Twitter and Facebook was created? Probably not. But I think it
probably not.
Probably not. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but wait, let me. So I don't think that technology itself has it's enabling something, right? It's enabling, but that can go anyway. And I was very naive and hopeful when we started the internet. I mean, when I was there, I was a student, right? But I was like, oh, it's all like, rose petals on the other side. And so in this next technology, we have to be intentional. It's not, like I said before, democracy or any positive thing isn't an inevitable outcome, right? And so just out of access, right? It's a fragile thing. So when you look at, for example, the social media example you brought, you look at the monetization model. The monetization model is still the old model, right? It's the legacy model. It's like a winner takes all, top down, exploiting something. And here it's only about getting clicks. So the tension in building something new is when you build something new, but nobody's going to fund that, right? Because we don't see the future quite yet, right? So the VC is looking at how can I exit, So if you put the same drivers, if you put legacy drivers on a new technology, you're not going to build a new world because it's driven by the old drivers, right? So you asked Gordon what has to be there first, and that is really where everything has to be built at the same time. We have to anticipate the future. We have to anticipate the governance models. And for example, what happened at Consensys, the funding model of all these projects being able, and I was an entrepreneur before, the ability to work on something without having to think about the funding every day is amazing. That gets you into a place that is ahead of you can actually work into the future, right? Because you do not have to think about, will legacy pay me, right? And so will legacy like me, basically? Do I make sense to legacy? If I make sense to legacy, I'm not that innovative, right? So that's the point, right? So that's where we have to have funding mechanisms. We have to have angel investors who see that, and we have to really be on our toes at entrepreneurs and innovators to keep innovating, and keep moving forward. And that is best done, in my opinion, with a broad base of experience. So teams that are, my team, for example, is remote from the start. We never, we're in the same city. One is in South Africa, one is in India, another Iranian is in Edinburgh, a Venezuelan is in Portland. So if you think about that also, we have financial crisis as part of our makeup, right? We have sanction and financial events as part of the team. Those are drivers, right? Those are things as an experience. You can't make up for that. You can't just sit there and think about it. It's something that we experienced, right? And so that's how I think the solutions will be driven.
Yeah, but there's a point there that you make. I think at the moment, comparing to legacy systems where monetization is the driver, right, of the technology giants, is it not also maybe a little bit still true that the dollar value is still a big significant driver even in the crypto space? I mean, I'm just saying today the biggest news headline is always that Bitcoin hit 30,000, Bitcoin hit 40,000, Bitcoin, I mean, the market cap of Ethereum is now this much, and Polkadot has raised so much capital and is now this much, so still, I mean, today I think a huge element of the crypto community is still the value driver of the dollar number that's attached to all of these projects. So, and that probably should, change, and the method of our evaluation of how we put value on projects should maybe change, right? Maybe we need a different mechanism, because at the moment, the single biggest metric, and the coin market cap probably being the driver of that, right? With which, if you look at the amount of data that they're collecting and the traffic that they're receiving, everybody is still only interested in what the market cap and the unit value of a project is. So how do we move away from that, which is almost taking us back down to the legacy metric? Which metrics can we introduce? I don't know. How do we start to evaluate projects and give them merit apart from just their market caps?
I think it's both, right? I mean, yes, of course, I'll be happy that crypto goes up, Bitcoin goes up, Ether goes up, great. Love it, and it's also good because you know what? There's money it comes to the projects, right? And that's the beauty of this is often like the unexpected airdrops, and you go and because I test a lot of other projects, like I get these airdrops, it's like, oh, nice, that's amazing. But that's not like how, I'm not building on that, but there are different ways. It opens our mind to like, wow, we don't have to come from scarcity. We can actually come from plenty, right? We can have a different mindset in how we approach something. And of course, I feel like having one foot on in the legacy world and one foot in the future, right? Because yes, we totally have to communicate also. We have to be realistic. We have to, we are interfacing with the legacy world, and that's fine. And I'm also not, I see that I'm building a alternative. I'm not necessarily looking to replace everything, right? I'm building an alternative for the global people so that they can do certain things, and anybody else who would want to join, that's great. But I'm not saying like government go away or fiat go away, it's fine, But yeah, so education is super important, right? People come in, these cycles, these boom and bust cycles bring people in. And actually the volatility is really good. I want this to go up and down really with big swings, because that is the opportunity to bring people in who didn't even know about it before, right? And those people have to be educated, and then that's also women blockchain. One of the goals is bring these people in and bring them into projects and have them use their domain knowledge in a different way towards this new infrastructure, right?
Yeah, and knowledge transfer, education is also probably a big issue, because new people come in and it's maybe so confusing for people who don't understand the different layers of technology, because the industry is evolving at such a high speed, right? That there's new technology and the new kind of next type of swap decks, or the next type of interoperability technology, or the next type of token, or the next blockchain network, which is powering a different type of layer, right? This is happening so fast that new people are coming in, and how do you make sure that there's an efficient transfer of knowledge? I think that probably going back to what Gordon said, I think the one of the important things is definitely user interface and the customer experience, because if they have a good interface and they have a good experience, right, with their first kind of touching point to the crypto world, and then the knowledge is there, they'll absorb it. But otherwise, they'll come in, they kind of like get confused, they go into the wrong token, there's not enough information available or knowledge there, and they kind of just say, no, this is not for me, I'm not going to understand it, I'm not even going to try to study it. But maybe there's like some incentivization mechanism there that they can, they come into like projects or applications that reward them for even learning about it and understanding the kind of true values of where this can go, rather than just coming in from the monetary perspective. That would be great. Somebody comes in and from their $100 becomes $1,000, but at the same time they need to understand what the technology is, right? So they really understand and stay, and they can give the true value to the next person. Because at the moment, I think there's a real big disconnect in that. A lot of projects only are built towards value creation, but not knowledge transfer. So that's part of it. And the knowledge transfer, I guess, happens with good UI and good UX with the project.
I think that what's interesting is I believe everything's fractals, and when you understand one piece, it has to fit with the rest of the picture, and that communication goes both ways. And Thessy brought up an interesting concept, and that is the current science of economics is built on the concept of the analysis of scarcity, right? All economic analysis right now is based on scarcity. And when you look at the US dollar, it's the activity, the value and the role of the US dollar has been defying the classic form of scarcity analysis over the last decade. They're printing as many dollars as they can. We don't know how many are out there, but it still maintains this magical value of $1, right? And so it's kind of interesting that maybe the education that has to happen isn't just of the unbanked in Africa and Asia.
No.
Maybe the education is actually of the people who think the most dangerous person in the world is someone who's positive that they know something, right? And that when you look at the great changes in humanity, they've all come with quantum changes in what were foundational thoughts, like the earth is flat. No, it isn't, it's round, right? You know, the earth stops at the Atlantic Ocean. No, it doesn't, there's a bunch of land there, right? And
well,
so
that's why the Atlantic Ocean stops at the land. Sorry, just had to say it.
But you start to understand that we gain through our educational system these concepts that we believe are non-transmutable, and the truth is that they're actually relative, not absolute. And so, you know, I wonder whether we're focusing on the wrong people in terms of who we're trying to educate. You know, because when you look at the bounds and the hoops that we have to jump through to make these products available and these platforms available, they have to do with the legacy system trying to maintain its hegemony over your activity, over how you hold value, over how you gain intelligence, and how you form consensus, right? So do you guys see that change happening? Like when you're looking at Europe right now, people look at these digital dollars.
I mean, you brought some important point up. So one thing is like, yes, we're building in, and it's so early, I always have to say that, we're building mostly in countries that don't have the problems that we're building for. The real solution that we're bringing isn't in those countries, not yet, you know, because you also said like we're printing a lot of money, and that's true. So at this point, I see crypto being a hedge against fiat, right? Which I didn't initially see that way. I thought it makes it easier to lose frictions between global settlements and all that. Today, I think it's a hedge. Right, so we're getting closer and closer to having the use case here. But of course, you don't have to explain something like this to someone who comes out of a country that had a hyperinflation or sanctions or anything like that. So people don't need that explanation. They don't have to learn that. What I do think is important in terms of education in our part of the world is the understanding of what does decentralization even mean, right? We're talking about DeFi, but how much of DeFi is actually decentralized, right? And, you know, a lot of the businesses, they start out centralized and they say like, once we are successful, we will be decentralizing. That wouldn't really make sense from a business perspective, and particularly not once you got funding, right? Because if your model actually works, then why would you like change that, right? So it is a path, and I'm not saying that nobody does it, but it's a little slippery slope potentially, right? On the other hand, it's difficult to start fully unintermediated, and the question is, does the user even know about it? Is it something that they understand? And so that is one point where we have to educate, right? And it becomes much easier now because, hey, suddenly we realize that big tech companies can shut down things. Now, and without judgment whether that is a good or bad thing, it's like, oh, wow, okay, so that shouldn't happen to your value transfer, right? So it's we have examples coming closer. And so one thing is education about privacy, about the gatekeeping that's happening, that's keeping a lot of people out, also in this country. It's keeping out everybody who doesn't have a ID. The fact that your data is connected to every transaction is actually limiting your freedom of speech. If you keep, using your credit card, everything is all your data is collected and sold and used against you in algorithms that in the end bring situations as we have them right now. These big gaps in a society have to do with like optimizing towards click-throughs. That's it in my mind. And then, of course, the replacement of trust. There's a lot of hacking going on. And, so the education really has to be on the new technology and why we need it. And what we invest in, right? I mean, like, don't invest in a token that is in the end going to be against you, even if you can make a lot of money. I don't believe in that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's I guess goes back down to where the value is being created and what's the purpose of it, right? Because so many projects or the underlying kind of reason really only is financial gain, apart from any other type of change that will impact it. So, they kind of come, they peak, they make money, and then they kind of disappear and fade off. So there's, I mean, inevitably in a landscape which is, I think, so open and easy to access, it's going to happen more than it would have in any other industry, right? Probably we've never seen such value creation in any other sector ever. I don't know that it was that possible, right? That happened anywhere else. So that's going to happen. But yeah, and then it's about applying filters and making it easy for people to see the differences in where this value creation is for just the economics incentive, or is actually democratizing something and has some more meaningful impact.
Gordon, you want to go into some of the question Q&A? We actually have a pretty active Q&A on YouTube and on our channel here, so you want to pick some?
Sure, let's do it for our buddy Marco first. So Marco is involved with us on several projects. He's good at attending.
I don't know if he's
events.
evolved, but we'll talk about that later.
What?
I don't know if he's evolved, but we'll talk about that later.
Involved. No, he's an evolved human who's evolved.
Right.
Please don't slam Marco. So Marco says, have you solved the decentralized? Sorry, let me say it again. Have you solved the decentralization problem for self-sovereign digital identity?
Let's talk more broadly. How does identity fit into all this?
Thessy, you go first, because you're involved in that area.
I was involved. I worked on the alpha for Uport. I think identity in this case, in the context of my project, identity shouldn't play a role, right? So identity is your address, and peer-to-peer technology does not require identity more beyond your address, right? So and that's not even, I mean,
that's a great phrase, by the way. Identity is your address. That was
so identity is your address,
good.
and so why do you need identity? You need identity to trust the other person, perhaps, right? But we also replace that need for trust, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you create a trustless technology, then there is no need for any identity beyond your address.
Yeah. Okay.
Atif, how do you deal with identity on your platform?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, being non-custodial with our platform, again, go with the Thessy's line of your address is your identity, but we still have the issue of where we touch the legacy world, right? And that's always going to be a huge friction point. I think it's going to take many years to solve how do we kind of get past that, right? Because if you're in one world and you want to come into the different world, at the moment there's a huge barrier. That big barrier wall is the KYC, right? Is the identity. So therefore, people who want to come in, they can't even, because they don't have an ID or they don't have, so they can't even generate the address and become inclusive in this world. So that's still a big challenge. But we start, I think, definitely with being non-custodial and just allowing people to generate the address and keep that as their identity. But it's about, I think, slowly baby steps and one step at a time, Like, you can't throw out the legacy world or the traditional financial world or the governments, right? You're not going to say that, that's it, we're going to overthrow them or something, that's not really going to happen overnight, right? So you have to take some small steps and just make it easy and facilitate for people to come in. And there's a whole bunch of companies that are trying to work on making it easier with fiat on-ramps and having reduced amount of identity requirements, but still, I mean, that's governed by central authorities in each region, and it's not going to change anytime soon. And so therefore there will always be your address in this world, but you always have your original address. And how do you, that layover is just, it's a struggle, and there's no real easy way to just kind of say we can ignore it and move on.
I mean, depends on where your product sits, right? If you sit in the crypto space, then you can say that. And I mean, on another topic, another time, we can talk about digital identity. I'm totally up for that. Since we talk about DeFi, I wanted to make that connection.
So, just there's some questions out there about what is DeFi and what platforms do you see out there right now that really embody it, and why is that good?
I think Uniswap probably is a great embodiment of DeFi. Especially because they didn't launch with a token, and then the value creation post launch, and then having that airdrop, right? So many stories. I think everybody who followed the Uniswap story read about life-changing amounts of money for individuals around the world, right? I think that airdrop today is worth almost $3,500, maybe $4,000. So some people paid off their tuition fees for the whole year. Some people pay their rent for the year. Some people maybe put a deposit on buying a new product or something. So yeah, that for me at the moment is probably the most meaningful element of DeFi, where you're taking away central authorities within the crypto space, which have their place. I'm not kind of negating them, but you take away kind of the transfer of value is the most significant part for me. It's not really even the mechanism that you can swap tokens, but it's the transfer of value that now, all those fees and all those millions of dollars that central authority was making, now they're being spread collectively amongst the people who are pooling within this, right? So that's probably the most meaningful element of DeFi today. But beyond that, to me, I think DeFi touches so many other industries and sectors. It's not just a financial product. It can have a lot more meaning to it as you attach, NFTs to it, and as you attach other products and mix and match them with DeFi. Then it opens up a lot of other areas like governance and other mechanisms. Because again, going back, crypto initially is the value creation, right? Going to Bitcoin. And then, so if you transfer that into the meaning of DeFi, then there's a lot more that can happen.
Yeah, I agree. And Uniswap is also one of my favorite projects. Uniswap is in the Ethereum space. It's beautiful. It's easy to use. It's great. Also MetaMask, also Consensys project. Liquality, of course, is
I was waiting. I was going to tee that up for you.
Yes, thank you. So basically, you can say in terms of like the functionalities, Liquality is like a MetaMask browser wallet and a Uniswap for different blockchains. It's cross-chain, right? And so if you look at those functionalities, it's really like opening up the DeFi space, which is like 99% on Ethereum, to Bitcoin, for example, which has the most value. So, I think that, and I know right now, I mean, this is the big thing, those bringing all these different chains together and making it easy for the user, just having like, you have a wallet, you have all these different chains in there, and you have the different tokens in there, and some you can swap across different blockchains, and that allows you to go into different decentralized finance modules. And the nice thing about decentralized finance is really that you have what's called the money Lego, right? So it's composable. That's something new. And so now if you look at who is in there, you don't have to be like a registered investor, accredited investor. You don't have that barrier of money that you have to have in order to be that. And you have the ability to stake some money that you otherwise have sit in your account, and you have the ability to lend it, to borrow, to do all these kind of things, and to exit into different chains. So it's beautiful. It's just the beginning. There is a high risk involved. I do think that, because it's like everybody is, just building, and there are lots of kids playing, and it's amazing, So use it with caution, but use it, because this is the only way how we can grow this.
Right. So that was, I'm glad we got to tee up Liquality. That was important. And Atif, you want to talk about Yaqub for a second?
Yeah, I mean, so big push on user interface and user experience.
Well, first, say what is Yaqub? What is, it's new.
Yaqub,
even I don't really know what it is.
Yeah, it's a yield optimization platform. That's what Yaqub stands for. And for us, yield means not just a single deposit earning of an APY. It means your entire portfolio within the crypto space. So whichever exposure you have, whether that's a fungible or non-fungible token, or whether it's just buying and holding a token, or whether it's actually actively playing in a DeFi yield vault. So our application has 5 main products. One is access to DeFi markets, so you can access different vaults and different deposit accounts across the network. And again, we're cross-chain, so we like to pick and bring the best kind of liquidity from different chains and put them into our application without the user kind of having to know that, okay, this product is from Binance Smart Chain, and this is from Ethereum, and this is from Polkadot. They don't really need to know the nitty-gritties of that. They just see it, but we maintain to be non-custodial. So, and then we have a swap DEX in there, which we aggregate the liquidity from the current providers, and then we have your wallet in there. So a lot of the DeFi platforms at the moment, the biggest struggle is that you have to sign a transaction off your platform. You have to plug in a different wallet. So we're integrating the wallet, so it's an easier experience. And then the fourth element there is your market data. Again, it's offsite, so you have to kind of go check what's happening with the market before you make your decision. And the normal kind of flow is that you check what's going on in the market, you go to a swap DEX and you make your transaction, and then you go to your vault. So that's kind of all within our application. And then the central element is that we have a dashboard which allows you to manage your portfolio, but also interact with the community. So the wallet's non-custodial, and the dashboard has like a chat box where you can like talk to other individuals who are online, and we keep that kind of community feel going on within the application. That's a big part for us, was to just keep it kind of very community based, not become, even though it's a centrally hosted application, we try to keep it as democratized as possible, and open to different people. And to Thessy's liquidity thing, that's a really interesting element that probably we would be able to integrate into Yaqub, because we're open and we're working with many different projects, and we want to integrate different types of swap DEXs across different chains to give people more access. And interoperability is a really interesting part of democratization and diversity, right? It's kind of like that is diversity in the crypto space.
Especially when you know the communities behind that. It's like world peace when you think that you can actually bring the Bitcoin community. And are you using Bitcoin as well?
We will have wrapped Bitcoin initially. But later on, we want to have an on-ramp solution, so that if somebody only has Bitcoin, they can come in and they can convert that and then start using other services. So
so we worked on the premise that we assume that people want to use the native token, right? So we don't have any wrapping. We have all the ERC20 tokens, but basically the way we roll out that unintermediated financial infrastructure is by having open source, completely open source. Other chains are collaborating with other chains as well. We build together, And we keep the native tokens, we bring in the community, so it has that inclusive aspect as well. And then we allow basically the user to be agnostic more or less of the blockchains, underlying blockchains, and to interact with the digital economy that is growing.
I think this is like a huge kind of the next play, and it's very important. So it's really great that we're both, I guess, doing that on both of our projects here.
We should talk later.
Equality. Yeah, we should.
We're supposed to be creating a bigger community. That's the whole point here.
Yeah,
We are, apparently.
I think because some of those barriers can really be harmful sometimes. Like I'm only with Bitcoin, I'm only with Ethereum, I'm only with Polkadot, I'm only whichever. We have to kind of just create bridges with that. And one thing I really love about Polkadot, and this is why we're integrating Ethereum and Polkadot first, is because they didn't come along and say, we're going to take out Ethereum because, we're going to make a better version of it. Okay, that might be the kind of end goal, but the initial kind of harmony is there with Ethereum bridges and being able to kind of operate together. And I think that's going to be a huge success model. And once that works, then a lot of other people will start doing that as well. So we have to be interoperable because we're a democratized kind of community, right? And we're a diverse community. So that is a huge part. And so something that Liquality is doing is great like that. We have to kind of bring that into different applications and just kind of bring more liquidity into those product offerings.
Yeah, and my thesis is that in the future, right now Ethereum is definitely taking the cake with all the DeFi environment, but in the future, the blockchains will have their specific optimization, their specific dApps, and we want to make it as easy as possible for the users to just go from one to the other without having to ideally wrap anything or intermediate any of the tokens, but having access right into the centralized finance, for example, and exiting right out of it, right, without any friction.
Yeah, that's exactly that's where I see it heading as well. And I think the products that are being built around chain agnostic ideas and are inclusive, they'll be a huge success. So yeah, that is the way to go.
All right, guys, quickly, we're going to close up on an hour and a half. I really enjoyed this. I mean, my mission with these calls is to learn myself. I pick the topics that I care about. I pick the people that I respect and I want to learn from, and then I set them free so I can have an hour and a half of education on Friday mornings. And I really appreciate you guys coming and sharing with the audience and meeting each other, because I knew you guys were going to like each other. So just 1 minute each, just, how do we find you online? Give how do we find your business and who are you looking for? And, any thoughts you have for farewell?
Atif,
go ahead.
All right. Yeah. I mean, first of all, definitely amazing to participate. Thanks to PALcapital and to James and to Jane behind the scenes, who's
Go Jane.
Yeah, go Jane as well. It's a good journey that we went from when we met in Davos and the car trip to get to the top of the mountain, and then now I guess in the crypto side. So
Atif found me online and offered to wait for me at the airport and drove me to Davos. He was a kind soul to a stranger. I appreciate that.
It was a really great trip, yeah, because we got to learn about each other and why you came to Davos and what you're participating. So that was great. But yeah, for Yaqub, all our socials are YaqubFi, so YaqubFi on Twitter, on Telegram, and our website is yaqub.finance. So you can come and see us there, and by all means reach out to me myself. I'm on LinkedIn, Atif Yaqub, if you want to directly message me for any collaboration. And we're very Yaqub as a project is very, very open to collaborating with other projects and even supporting them where we can. I also sit on the board of Future Digital Assets PLC, which is a venture fund in London, and so there we're also interested in funding projects and exploring new ideas and things which are changing up the space. So there's both things we're open to and we're really interested on. So look forward to following up everybody who's watching and who's going to watch this video afterwards. And definitely we'll be in touch with James and Thessy will follow up as well afterwards.
Yeah, totally.
You can follow up with me too. I'm a nice
Oh yeah,
guy.
Gordon. Sorry, don't to forget Gordon.
We didn't even hear from you. I thought you would be.
Gordon.
I'm kidding.
I just
So
was interested in
either
listening.
Gordon
That's
was
okay.
really-
You know, hey, whatever.
Yeah, so either we was really boring or we were so interesting that you just didn't have to.
Forgot to interject.
Gordon actually has a loop of himself sitting there nodding, and he actually
Yeah.
goes, gets a cup of coffee, he
He's
walks
not
the
even there.
dog.
He's not even there. He's gone to like get his breakfast or whatever. Yes.
Exactly.
I am not a loop. Repeat, I am not a loop.
Tessie, your closing thoughts, Tessie.
Yeah, thanks everyone for this inspiring conversation. Liquality is at liquality.io, is also on Twitter, liquality_io. I'm on Twitter, Thessy, Mehrain, my full name. We have a few other socials, just ping me if you need them. Women in Blockchain, please. Women and Allies, you can ping me directly on Twitter. Yes, if you are a developer, ideally minority developer, ideally a senior female developer, please ping me. Always looking for that. We are always interested in collaborations. If you think that Liquality project is interesting, please ping us as well. And also I work with the Blockchain for Social Impact Coalition. We're going to have a hackathon soon and ongoing. So if you see this video at another date, there will be probably another one coming up. So we're always looking for mentors, participants, and judges. So ping me if you're interested.
Fantastic. All right, Gordon, any closing thoughts, my friend?
No, I'm here. I'm not on a loop. I came back. No, just very, very nice to meet you all.
That's funny,
It
that's
was
exactly what you
interesting.
said last week.
Well,
All
at least I'm consistent.
right, guys, I just want to thank everyone. Atif, Thessy, Gordon, we really appreciate you guys out there. Hope you have a fantastic week next week, and I hope to see all you guys next Friday.
And thanks, Jane, for organizing.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Jane. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you very much.
Good job.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.